Hi there, my name is Ian, and if you know anything about me, it's probably that I like developing games, especially in Roblox. Now, when you've been developing as long as I have, you tend to accumulate a lot of stories. And in today's video, I'm going to be telling you some of my stories, specifically the ones that are about me hiring other people and other people hiring me. I have 3 stories here, and I just want to tell you this up front. I am hiding their names. I've replaced their usernames with fake actual names so that they will remain anonymous. If you do figure out who it is that I'm actually talking about, please do not give them a hard time or anything. It was a long time ago, and I don't want anyone having to face angry people. My philosophy is that if people are mean to you, be nice back. So please do not try to find these people. But yeah, so the 3 people I'm going to be talking about, well, one of them is a development group. That development group will also remain nameless. Once again, if you do find them, especially this one, remember that I don't actually have anything against this group. I only have something against one specific person in this group. Another person I'm going to be talking about, I will be calling Alex. And the last person I will be talking about is Griffin. The development group hired me, I hired Alex, and I also hired Griffin. One more thing I want to tell you is that none of this would have happened if I weren't a bit of a doormat. I have since improved, and I've learned to hold my own, but as long as you aren't such a doormat as I was in these stories, you shouldn't have to have these problems that I did. Alright, so let's get started. The first development group, I should say, hired me to make a whole kind of website system. But first, here's how I found the job. So, Alex, who's going to have his own story later, I was hiring as an animator for my upcoming horror game, Ectoplasmic. He took this other job to earn some extra money on the side, and he told them he could script. He could not. At all. It was kind of sad, honestly. I gave him some tutorials, and he wasn't trying to figure it out. I mean, considering how little time he'd spent trying to program, it's completely normal, but I feel like he shouldn't have tried to take a programming job when he couldn't program. He could do UI, and that was also part of the job. So he asked me for help on this job, and after he didn't understand my tutorials, he asked me if I wanted to do the job with him. He would do all the UI, and I would do all the scripting, for half-half. Now, at the time, I thought he was going to be a valuable partner. He was actually going to hold his weight, and the half-half deal would be fair, or at least mostly fair. Yeah, that didn't hold very long, but that's how I got the job. Now, 2 people you're going to need to know for this are Andy and Lucas. These 2 people were pretty nice. They were working over us. They were making sure we were doing what we were supposed to do, and they were not the ones responsible for paying us or the person really in charge in this situation. They were actually pretty cool guys. They were usually on our side whenever things got bad, but of course they didn't have all the power in the world. Now the person working above them, I'm just going to refer to as the boss, because I don't actually even remember their real username or their rank, but I know that they were in charge of paying us, and Andy and Lucas were just kind of acting as a telephone between me and them. So the initial deal was for $400 of Robux. It was in Robux, not USD, but that's fine. And you might be thinking this is pretty low. That is because this is Roblox. In Roblox, if you haven't developed in there, things are generally a lot cheaper to hire people. But it was a large job for about $400 of Robux. I was happy with that. Me and Alex were going to split it half-half. And what we were asked to do was make a sort of website system with logins, accounts, deleting accounts, and a whole bunch of other features that are specific to the group, so I'm not going to really get into. But Roblox really isn't made for this stuff, which made it a bit difficult, but I was willing to take on the challenge. Now, this was heavily reliant on UI, and let's just say Alex was not being very helpful. He was not really doing his job. He tried for a little bit to do some UI, but it was not looking good, and it was also not scaling right. In Roblox, since the windows are always resizable, you really have to plan out what will happen if the user resizes the screen. He was not doing that, and the UI also just straight up didn't match the references they gave us. So I decided to remake it for him. Andy and Lucas were a lot happier with what I had made, and this pattern of me doing stuff for him just kind of continued. He also tried to code a bit of the login system, and not only did I have to hold his hand through the entire process of coding it, but he also didn't save the script, so I had to completely rewrite it myself. And things only got worse from there. He started doing less and less. Like, there's a lot of UI that needed to be done, and I'd shown him what he'd done wrong. I hoped he'd learned. Lucas and Andy sort of expected him to have learned, and they asked him, "Hey, you please do this part of the UI?" I waited for him to do it. He did not. He said, instead, "Oh, yeah, I'll do it soon." And then, obviously, he did not end up actually doing it. Andy and Lucas started getting more and more angry. They kept saying, "Hey, you really need to do this." Then they started threatening to fire him if he didn't actually do it. Continued pushing it off, saying he would do it. Still never did it. And then eventually, they actually fired him. They were going to hire another UI designer, but I offered to take as part of the job. I, of course, assumed I would be getting his pay, right? Like, I do a job, I get the pay. I do 2 jobs, I get 2 pays. It just makes sense. Yeah, that did not really work out. They did pay me more because I was taking on this job, but they didn't pay me the full pay of $400 of Robux. Instead, they only paid me $350. If we were collectively being paid $400 of Robux, then if I do both our parts, I should be getting paid $400 of Robux. It just makes sense. But no, the boss seemed to think differently. Andy and Lucas were on my side, as they are on most of these disputes, but the boss, of course, was their superior. They didn't really have the final say, the boss did, and we just kind of had to go with that. I decided, I am getting paid a lot, might as well just keep going. So I kept going, and things got even worse. They started adding more and more things to do, without raising the pay, might I add. I was still getting paid $350 of Robux, but I was doing more. So I was doing more than the initial deal and getting paid less. That makes no sense. And as they added more and more, I finally put my foot down. I said, "Hey, that's not fine. You can't just do that to me." Then I took all the assets out of the game, downloaded them to a local file, and gave them 4 options. Option number 1, you don't pay me, you don't get your assets back, I leave, you can find someone else. Option 2, you pay me the initial deal of 40,000 Robux or $400 of Robux, and I add back everything that was a part of the initial deal. Option 3 is that they gave me 45,000 Robux or $450, a bit more than the initial deal, and I give them back everything that was a part of the initial deal and everything I did in addition to that already. So they pay more and they get more. That just makes sense. That's just fair. And then the last deal was for 50,000 Robux. I would add back everything that I had done and finish doing the extra things they'd asked me to do. Because there were still some extra things they'd asked me to do that I had not done yet because I put my foot down. All this was more than fair. Like, all the extra stuff I'd added from the initial deal for just an extra quarter of what they were paying me, yeah, that was completely unfair for me. But once again, I was a little bit of a doormat back at this time. And guess what the boss did? They went with option 1. I don't get paid, I don't put anything back. Andy and Lucas were on my side. Once again, they were like, "Hey, that's not, like, you promised that you would pay this much, and he did more than that. Like, what he's saying makes sense," but the boss didn't care. I honestly don't know how he was believing what he believed, or how he came to the conclusion he came to. If you make a deal, you gotta uphold it, especially when it's barely fair already. But he wouldn't budge. And once again, because he was the superior of Andy and Lucas, there was nothing they could do, and I just had to deal with that. So he was literally willing to have some other scripter come along and redo weeks upon weeks of work just because he didn't want to pay me what he had promised. Obviously, I caved. I probably should have held out at least a bit longer to see what would happen. Honestly, though, I'm not sure if he ever would have budged, but I caved. I decided, you know what, might as well get paid something. Give me the $35K, I'll give you back everything I currently have. Anyway, I got paid the $35K, and hope to God I would never have to talk to these people again. Minus Andy and Lucas. They were fine. They were pretty nice. Honestly, I'm not sure if I would have done anything differently. Maybe I would have tried to get something fair a bit earlier, but I'm pretty glad I got paid at least something, because all that money went towards my animator that I would replace Alex with, and they did a great job with this new animator, and yeah, I'm really happy with what they've done. But that's the story for that development group. They paid me less for doing more work, and boss just did not care. Anyway, so let's move on to Alex's part of the story. His disappearing is already pretty bad for him, but there is a lot more to come with this person. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that. He did a lot more than just disappear. So, as you may remember, I hired him to do animating for my horror game. I wasn't paying him too much because I wasn't expecting that much at the time. My later animator, of course, I expected a lot more and paid a lot more, but I was paying this person about $40 US and 5% of game profit. So a bit after I'd hired him, and after we had started doing that development group job together, he started a Discord server. I kind of liked the idea of what he was going to do with it, and he asked me to make a Discord bot for it. I like making Discord bots, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea, and he offered that I could pay him half as much, so $20 less, if I made him the bot. I thought, okay, yeah, I'll do it. So I made the bot, did what he asked for, and then some, because I'm an overachiever when I try to program stuff for people. I always have been. And he was pretty happy with it. Then he also started a competition in the server to see who could get the most invites in a certain amount of time. I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was something like a week, I think. The prize was about, I think it was $20 or $30 or something. And I came up with an idea. There's this big Discord server, Rodevs. That's how I found Alex in the first place. It's a place to hire Roblox developers, and they have a sponsorship feature. You can pay the owners of the server a little bit of money, and they will advertise your server for a little bit. I knew for a fact I would win the competition by a lot if I did this, but the sponsorship cost $35, and the prize is only like $25, I don't remember exactly. So I asked Alex, hey, if you increase the prize money, I will do this. He increased the prize money to $40, so I would profit $5 for doing this sponsorship thing. And that's exactly what I did. I did a sponsorship thing. I obviously won by a lot. And then, guess what happened? He deleted the Discord server. And this also meant he didn't pay me my $40. So I was down $35. It was more than him just not giving me my prize money. But I lost $35 for no reason now. I was not very happy. And furthermore, also this bot wasn't going to be used anymore. And based off of all the things he had done in the development group where he just disappeared and how he deleted the server and didn't pay me, I completely lost all faith in him and I fired him from the animation position. Now, since I was giving him the bot in exchange for $20 off of what I was going to pay him, that meant since I'm not paying him anything anymore because I fired him, he owes me $20 now. And keep in mind, he hadn't done any animating yet because we had put that project on pause to do the development group thing. So I didn't owe him anything, but I'd given him a bot, and even though he wasn't going to use it, I still made it, which meant he'd owed me the $20 it was worth. If you ask someone to make you a specially engraved statue for you, and then they make it, and you decide you don't want it anymore, you still have to pay them. They took the time to make it, that means you owe them. That's just how the world works. He did not seem to agree. He would not pay me. As a matter of fact, he wouldn't pay me any of the $60 he now owed me. And with the prize money, he actually tried to unload it on someone else. He said, I was never responsible for paying this. Someone else said they would do it, and you should be talking with them. I pulled the Discord tag of this person out of them, and I messaged the person, and they had never heard anything about this. Yeah, Alex is lying. I highly doubt that this random person was lying about this, especially considering Alex's reputation. I think it was a lot more likely that Alex was just lying. So, once again, I confronted him about this, and guess what he did? He ghosted me. I was down $60. Now, if you think things are already bad, it's going to get even worse. Because 2 months later, on a completely different account, he decides to come back, pretending to not be Alex. This new Discord account was not at all linked to his first one, so I had no way of knowing it was him, and he decided to hire me on that account. Which, honestly, kind of flattering. It meant he thought I did a good job and was a good scripter, so he wanted to hire me, even though I hated his guts. He was paying pretty well. He was trying to start a Roblox group where he was making assets and then reselling them. And he was going to pay me upfront a little bit for the assets and give me a percentage of however much they sold for whenever someone bought it. And I was happy with this. I took the job and I made one asset and I was working on the second one when I said, hey, you should make a Roblox group for this. It's going to be a lot easier to distribute the products and it's also going to be a bit more organized. After a bit of fighting, I got him to agree to it. I tried to join it and then I realized the owner of the Roblox group, I recognized the name. And after a little bit, I realized why I recognized it. It was the same Roblox account that he told me about when he was using his first account. It was at that moment I knew this was Alex. I was not happy, especially remembering that he still owed me those $60. So I was like, dude, you're Alex, why didn't you tell me this? Like, who? Who's Alex? Of course, I wasn't actually saying Alex. I don't actually know his first name, which is why I'm giving him a fake name, as well as just anonymity. But he was saying that he basically didn't remember his first account's name, despite it only being 2 months ago. After further confronting him, saying like, I know this is you, here's my proof, it's the same Roblox account, he caves like, oh yeah, that account, that was so long ago, I barely remember it. It was 2 months ago, dude. He was so clearly lying. It was insane. I was not happy, and I said, okay, you know what, I'm willing to turn the other cheek. If you give me the $60 you owe me, I will continue working for you. It's a pretty good job. I've liked making these assets, but I can't trust you if you don't pay me what you owe me. For a bit, he tried to do the same thing. Oh, I don't remember owing you this. I sent screenshots, and then he remembered, and eventually he said he wasn't going to pay me that, and I left him. I didn't block him. I said, okay, well, I'm trying to be nice here. I'm going to give you an option. If you decide that you want me to work for you, let me know. Pay me the $60 you owe me, and I'll just forget that all that stuff ever happened. Pretty generous deal. I was just trying to be the bigger man. He would not pay me it. He was claiming he was broke, despite being able to pay me for the assets. He confessed that he wasn't very trustworthy, which I thought was a pretty good move of him. It's good to own up to your actions, and I gained a bit of respect for him, but I still couldn't trust him. Not after what he had done. So that was his story. To this day, still hasn't messaged me back, still owes me $60, and I don't think he's ever going to try to pay me that back so I'll work for him. And that's completely fine with me. Honestly, I've moved on. There's so many other projects I have now. I honestly don't even think I would still take that deal if he had given me back the $60 he owed me. Now, the final story is about a dude whose fake name is Griffin. This is obviously not his real name, as I have said multiple times before. I don't actually know any of these people's real names. I just came up with random names for the sake of anonymity. But this story is also completely separate from any of the other stories I've told you. This happened well before anything with the development group or Alex. But it is probably just as bad as Alex's story. Although I guess that's debatable. But he was a effects, not effects artist, but like I've never known what GFX stands for. Oh, okay, well apparently GFX just means graphics. Okay, well, basically he made thumbnails and stuff for Roblox games. And I needed one for a game I had already made. This game I released a while ago. It's called Let's Play Cards. It's a card game sandbox that just immediately flopped because apparently most Roblox players do not know how to play cards. Or at least the ones I've talked to. Yeah, it just didn't take off. But that's not part of this. That's not that important. I needed him to make a thumbnail for the game, and I was going to pay him $25 US for it. And he was going to give me 4 people sitting around a table playing cards. Pretty simple, right? I mean, I'm going to provide the card textures, the maps. $20, paying pretty well. So anyway, he got started, and the first thing he made was not great. It had 2 people when the deal was 4. It had really broken lighting. For some reason, it was really bright behind everyone. The map I sent him was just broken. All the textures were missing. The card textures were also pretty broken. They were just like, everyone was holding a freaking stack of cards. Instead of holding it in a fan like any normal person, it was holding it like it was a deck. It was really weird. And also, the two people he did add had the same clothing, which was just, it was just really stupid. Like, it's not that hard to just give them different clothing. Then again, I don't know. I've never done GFX, so I might be saying stuff that's completely false here. But it was still much less than the initial deal, and it's not like I was paying him any less. I was still going to pay him $25. And when he sent me this, he was like, okay, I'm done. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I was expecting it to be decent quality, and he just couldn't provide that, apparently. I convinced him to add a third person. I didn't even ask for the agreed upon fourth person. Every time I brought up adding a fourth person, he just completely dismissed it. So I settled for 3 for some reason. I don't know why I settled for that, honestly. But I settled for 3, and he added that third person. I was like, okay, this is better, but you should probably fix how they're holding those cards, because I'm going to show you a picture here. It was really weird. You don't hold cards like that. You hold it in a fan. So he made it in a fan. He was not very happy about it, and the cards clipped into each other. It was not pretty. So I manually went into Roblox and made the card model for him. He imported it into Blender, and boom, now they're holding fans of cards. Then I was also upset about the lighting. These are things that I shouldn't have to be asking about. If the lighting has incredibly bright lights behind people for some reason, or people are holding cards right, like just wrong, or the map is missing textures that it shouldn't be, or it has fewer people than we agreed upon, I shouldn't have to be asking for them to fix this stuff. But he sure seemed to think I did have to ask for this stuff, because I had to. Anyway, I pushed him, and I got him to fix the lighting. Then there was one more thing I needed him to do. It was super simple. All he needed to do was move the camera back a little. Things were just a little bit too zoomed in, and for my purposes, I just wanted it a little bit further back. He was just barely budging it back, moving it tiny bit back, and I just tried to do something that I thought would be easier for him. What if I just do it? You send me the file, I'll move back the camera, render it, I have a pretty good computer, and I'll pay you your $25. Yeah, no, he didn't like that. He actually ended up saying, okay, I'll give you the file for another $5. Yeah, he wanted another $5 for the blend file of something that wasn't even at the level of what I asked for. It was still only having 3 people. I caved because, like I said multiple times, back then I was a doormat. I paid him, I was going to pay him another $5, and he sent me the file. But guess what? He didn't send me the textures, which basically means he had the shape of everything, but like the clothing, the faces, the card textures, none of that was there. It was like replaced with this missing texture, pink and black. So I asked him to send it. He was not happy. He joked that would cost $10, and based off of what had been happening, I did not think it was a joke. I obviously didn't cave, but he told me it was a joke. He sent me the textures. I imported the textures, and then guess what? One of the textures was missing. Of course, I confronted him about that, and also, of course, he just said he deleted it. He didn't have it. He just didn't have the texture anymore. Yeah, that was not great. I asked him to check his recycle bin. He's like, oh, I cleared it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, I paid for you to send me the file. I shouldn't have had to pay, but I did pay. And that means you need to send me the file and everything that is needed for the file to work right. And that means you need to send me the textures. So he recreated the last texture, sent it to me, and that was about the last time I wanted to have to interact with him. I was not happy with this person. Now I had the blend file, I moved it back to a good distance, and then I decided, now that I have the file, why stop there? So then, this is not hard by the way, but I added back the textures that were missing for some reason. I improved the poses of some of the people, fixed the lighting, and it was perfect. It was everything I wanted. Now, this wasn't the nicest move, but I was pretty sick of this person, so I was like, hey, I fixed your GFX, and I sent him a picture of the same GFX, but with a whole bunch of things fixed. Yeah, he was not happy. I guess that was kind of fair, but like, I still only had 3 people. and I paid $30 for something I actually ended up doing most of that myself. I could have done everything that was done except for get the characters in there. I made the map, he imported it, but that's like 2 clicks of a button. I did the card fans, I figured out how to reposition the people to make it look better, I fixed the textures, I fixed the lighting. All he was needed for was importing the characters, and he was paid $30 for this. Everything else I'd practically done myself. And I cannot iterate this enough. It only had 3 people, and the initial deal had 4. And then he has the audacity to 3 days later message me with underpaid angry emoji. Oh, that was, honestly, I laughed so hard at that. It was funny. Anyway, I decided that I should give him a rating. The Discord server I found him on, Rodev's, pretty good server. You should check it out if you're trying to hire people for Roblox. I decided I would give him a rating on that server. They have that feature. Obviously, the rating wasn't good. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you got some idea of everything I had to go through. It was, let me just say, Roblox development is quite the ride. But honestly, I really like developing Roblox, but why is something for another video. If you enjoyed what I talked about or want to see more of my development stories, please consider liking, subscribing, or pressing the bell if you're really committed. And yeah, just do watch out for these kind of people. If you're going to be hiring people or getting hired, make sure that you lay very careful boundaries about what's going to be expected of you, what you're going to expect of them. Make sure that the initial deal is held to. And, of course, don't be quite as much of a doormat as I was, because remember, none of this would have happened if I had held my own. Also, once again, can't stress enough, if you do find out who these people are, please don't attack them. They're just people, and this is all in the past, and I don't want anyone receiving hate for this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.